right, well, at this time, we're going to call our Conroe ISD School Safety and Security meeting to order. We appreciate you all being here. I think this is only the second time that we've actually had this meeting in person, so it's significant that we're back now and having these in person. So thank you for being here, and thanks for those that are joining us online tonight. We're going to move right into our first item, which is consider approval of the minutes from the School Safety Committee meeting on December 1st, 2021. So I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Dr. Hines, a second. Ethan Barton. Any conversation or changes that need to be made that you saw in the minutes?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll call a vote then. All those in favor of approving the minutes, well, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Thank you so much. All right. Item 2, receive information regarding mental health initiatives, awareness, and current programs in Conroe ISD. You know, we are very fortunate to have a wonderful team of counselors in Conroe ISD. You know, throughout this pandemic, there have been a lot of challenges, but I think not just in Conroe ISD, but globally, mental health is an issue that may be one of the positives of the pandemic that we've become more comfortable in talking about and bringing them forward and having it be conversation. And we're fortunate to have some of the leadership from our counseling department here today, Denise Sapola and Lindsay Taylor, who are going to talk us through mental health and Conroe ISD. Ms. Sapola.
Boy, that's hard to read. Lindsay's going to help me with this. Thank you so much, Dr. Null. And it's really exciting to be able to have a few minutes to share with you some of the things that we do have going on this year. Thank you. It definitely has been a challenging year with concerns for mental health, but our counselors have done a wonderful job in meeting the needs of our students and our parents, our staff, and also the community. What I emphasize the most is people know to come forth for help if there's a rapport and if there's a relationship. So that's first and foremost in what we do through guidance and counseling, is build a relationship with our constituents, with the people that we interact with. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our mental health specialist, Lindsay Taylor, and she's going to talk to you a little bit of some of the initiatives not only she's done, but the 173 counselors throughout the district.
Good afternoon. It really does take a team effort to approach and address just the overall needs in regards to mental wellness and mental health with our students and just our community in general. So, you know, the first thing that we're looking at is those initiatives or things that we have done in regards to our staff here in Conroe ISD. One of the things that we've really looked into providing for our teachers and our staff on campuses is trauma training on campuses, that trauma-informed teaching, where we look at the brain development, the impact that trauma can have on our students, and how to utilize different techniques and strategies within the classroom setting to help provide that safe and secure environment for our students to help promote that learning. Along with that, we have also done quite a few of, and it was new this year, providing, we usually would do it just with our counselors, but providing an opportunity for staff to participate in different professional developments and trainings in different areas that do center around mental wellness, with some examples being stress management, self-care, communication when just emotions are high, flipping the switch on anxiety, building those connections within the climate and the community of the school setting, and also building that resiliency, meaning, you know, if we have a setback, how do we bounce back from that? And within those, it was geared towards staff, but also incorporating those skills within our classrooms and for our students.
And I think that the resiliency piece is so important to all of us, because as we start teaching coping strategies and develop that those skills to be resilient in any of life's challenges, then that just begins to pile one upon the other and create a nice toolbox that as our students developmentally, grow, they're able to have those tools to handle whatever life's dealing, or to better endure what life's dealing, they're dealing with and what's throwing at them. By the time they reach high school, we hope that this is really also functioning as skills that they will take into their adulthood, and combat any of those other challenges that can be a major issue for our high school students. So.
Yes. Along with those opportunities for staff, we have the opportunity for them to participate in youth mental health first aid trainings, which is continued with Tri-County behavioral health trainers that come in and help provide that training to our staff members. Just helping with that mental health literacy, helping those who do work so closely with our students to make sure that they know what mental health challenges might look like within our school settings. Employees Assistance Program is something that has been relatively new within the district, but it is something that is, it's provided a benefit for our employees.
Well utilized
yes.
this year.
And so that's something we've continued to promote within our district newsletters, and also just reminding our staff that that is an available resource for them.
And the Employee Assistance Program helps not only with behavioral health concerns, providing counseling, but also financial assistance, legal aid, all types of wellness tips. And it's really been exciting to see, in a time of great need, the availability of those resources for our staff.
Can you share a little bit as how an employee would access those?
Yes, actually, every week in the district newsletter, there is a link that they are reminded of, and then when our counselors or administrators are working with individual staff who need assistance, they direct them to the website of Support Link, and that is services, those are supports that are available to the employee and any family member age 25 and under in their household. So it's really been something that our staff has received well. It's a way to get them in with telemental health without that 6 to 8 week waiting list that we're seeing throughout our community right now.
And it's really easily accessible to them, whether it's through our SSO, which is our online system that they can connect with that, or via an app that they can download on their phone. Another thing that we've also implemented is the mental wellness tips in our Teaching and Learning newsletter. So each month, Teaching and Learning sends out an email to the teachers within the district, and we incorporate different mental wellness topics such as gratitude, goal setting, and when we look at those different topics, we also, once again, for wraparound purposes, discuss a little bit of how we can help support our students even doing that as well. So along with staff, and I know I've talked a little bit about kind of that support too, even with our students. Some other things that we have done to help our students with mental health and mental wellness is we have been working on our social emotional learning playbook in conjunction with our student support services. And what that is going to do for our students is to help them develop those skills to help them academically in the classroom. When we look at our students, we look at them being college, career, and military readiness. So these skills really are ones that are going to help them in those workforces and in those different types of settings, but also help them with their academics. When we look at the foundation of the building blocks of learning, it is, understanding our emotions and looking at that self-management, but also when we look at that foundation, we want a strong one to help them be able to access that content that they are learning.
Our district has had the opportunity to participate in TCHAT, and TCHAT is the Texas Child Health Access through Telemedicine. And this is another one of those ways that our families and students, if they choose that as their mental health provider, when they have a crisis or are in need of a behavioral health issues, then they are able to really see and get a response from a therapist within about 24 to 48 hours. It's another one of those opportunities that they're able to be afforded that cuts quickly those waiting lists that are throughout our community. Not all families choose this, but we've seen a rise in the number of families who have chosen the TCHAP program. Tri-County offers on-site services on 4 of our campuses, and Tri-County is a behavioral health facility here in our Tri-County state area, or our Tri-County area, and 4 campuses are able to have on-site labs where there is a therapist and skills specialist who are able to help families who are in need. This reduces the amount of absences. The students who are being served as clients through Tri-County, they're able to have that appointment on campus, go back to class if they're able after their appointment, and it really has helped assist our families in being able to stay at work and not having to leave work in order for their child to receive some behavioral health.
Clarify that, the parents have to be involved in that process.
Yes.
So the Tri-County doesn't interact with students that don't already have parental approval and all of the paperwork's been signed to get that done. So it's, you know, the parents are still very much involved in that process.
Absolutely, as with TCHAT as well. TCHAT is also a program that is, it's telemental health from their home with the family being involved with the student and with complete permission from the parents. We mentioned earlier the rapport that's necessary, and that's one thing that we really pride ourselves in, is for our students to know there is help. For anyone in the community to know, if they have a need of a resource, they go to their local school, and the campus counselor would be able to connect them with resources. And I always tell the counselors, if you don't know the answer, if you don't know, then call one of us. We'll find that information for you or for the family that you're trying to help.
Other things that we do for our students too, of course, we have 2 crisis counselors within our department, as well as all of us working together to help support those needs of our students and staff members. But we do respond to crisis situations, as well as provide resources and referrals to families in need.
Suicide awareness and prevention is very important with, well, across the nation and of course within our community. And we've had a couple of trainings this year of not only Lindsay presenting the Conroe ISD resources and talking about suicide prevention, but also the Talk Saves Lives training, which is available through the American Suicide Foundation. And these presentations have been well attended and good resources, and provided families within the community with skills to assist in having those difficult conversations if someone approaches them.
Other presentations too that have been given for parents and PTOs, which these most of have been presented on campuses, have been things such as letting your kids fly and helping them develop those skills that they help them be individuals and help them to make different choices for themselves. FOMO, which is fear of missing out, flipping the switch on anxiety. For the Sake of Our Youth is going to be a presentation coming up in conjunction with a fellow therapist who is going to share about the digital world that we live in, and then also preparing our emotionally healthy kids for a digital world.
So if I'm a principal and I'm looking for a PTO presentation,
Yes.
which I always was back during the day, that's a list of some of the ones I could call on your team.
It is, and that list of available presentations is given out in that Teaching and Learning newsletter every month, so that all they have to do, a campus just contacts us, and when we get Lindsay or whoever the speaker is for that topic, to go and provide those services. Yes. We are also looking at pretty robust offerings both in North County and South County, 2 different locations. We're going to have 6 different parent presentations for education for next year as well.
To TCHAT, I thought that
Yes.
was interesting. So is that a free service, or is that something done through my medical insurance, or how does that work?
Both. So it is free, and then after those 3 to 5 visits that are approved through the free program, they work to provide a connection with someone through insurance or other means so that they can continue those therapeutic needs if there are still needs. And TCHAT also works for a psychiatrist. Those are very difficult appointments to get, and so that's another great benefit of being part of that Baylor School of Medicine program. Again, with parents and caregivers, we've mentioned it a number of times, being there to provide resources and referrals for whatever their presenting problems are or what the needs are. Campus response, we have seen a rise in the number of parents that are reaching out, not only on behalf of their child, but also on behalf of themselves. Because it is a long waiting list to get in with therapeutic resources within the community, we're able to provide them with connections to know where to call and which lists to get on. And so that really is something that we can assist family with, not only the immediate crisis, but how then to perhaps prevent a crisis in the future. Question, yes?
4 campuses?
That is, the Tri-County is, let me think here, Armstrong, Creighton, Grangerland, and, no. They left San Jac, and I'm trying to figure out who the 4th is. I will think of it, I'm sorry, but I can let you know later, the 4th campus. We talked again about the campus parent newsletters, and those are mental wellness tips. So all of our counselors are providing a newsletter for their campus and on their websites so that they're able to reach more of the population and for their individual schools. These sometimes take the form of electronic newsletters, also paper that are sent home or through online platforms. And we do have some counselors who have been doing presentations through YouTube and through blog and much in trying to reach the audience as we are doing today in this meeting.
And so looking at how we are involved with the community in regards to mental health and mental wellness, I know that several of our team members within our department are part of the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force of Montgomery County. We each work with a different work group that helps just promote that mental wellness within our community and within Montgomery County. We also collaborate with counselors and educators regarding mental health issues within our local communities and nationwide. We also provide, our presentations are provided throughout the community just as requested, like we had mentioned before, with our parents and within our staff. We do hold things such as mobile markets for food distribution to help assist our overall community, not just our students, but the community itself, as well as back to school clothing, holiday support. We do, of course, with the police department, the coat drive. A lot of the counselors and campuses will help promote that. We have community partnerships with school campuses. They build those relationships with those community partners who oftentimes help students in their community as well.
They may do mentoring programs. They may come to read on the campus. They certainly provide some incentives for staff recognition and for student events. And so we depend on the partnership of the community to assist in the schools, and just as much as we're trying, to assist them as well. We do have just a couple more things to mention, which is our goals for next year. And we're hoping to add some mental health and wellness tips into the district newsletter for faculty and staff. So those will be little short things that will come out once a week. Also, we really believe in those community connections that in CISD means all. And so helping to continue to provide presentations when asked throughout the community, which is where the audience is for our parents, whether they be, at a meeting somewhere else or any way that we can assist with those things. There is a newly adopted health curriculum that our SHAC committee has been voted on and been aware of, and there are many, many, many wellness focuses in that new health curriculum. And so that is something that we see as being a real strength coming forward for next year. Do we have any questions, additional questions?
I'd like to add a couple things. You mentioned the community input, how we're involved in that Montgomery County Suicide Task Force. That's led by Judge Wayne Mack. That's kind of it was his deal. I was at an event this weekend with Judge Mack, and we were visiting, and one of the very first things he said to me was, what a great impact that our people make on that committee. He said, we couldn't have the committee without the leadership of Conroe ISD involved. And we specifically talked to Denise about how much you're going to be missed. I had to talk up your replacement. Are we okay? But he was worried about that. But that just shows, you know, our impact, and we know, be it counseling or whatever it is, our size, that, you know, we are the largest entity in the county, period, right? When you think about the number of employees, the number of households, families that we impact, we have a lot of influence, and it's nice to see when we use our expertise like this to make the whole community better, whether people have kids in our schools or not, because in many cases, there are people out there, families out there that have no idea who in the world to call to get help, other than, I'll just call the local school. And we get those phone calls, and these wonderful people help, you know, people to find resources. We're just fortunate that we have it, so we appreciate that. So any other questions?
The fourth school is Moorhead. I knew I'd think of it, I just had. I had.
Any questions or comments?
Denise and Lindsay, so, you know, I can always pick up the phone or email my school counselor if I have a concern. If I'm more maybe on the outside, I always have kid chat and anonymous alerts, which is also another way.
Yes.
If I was more hesitant, if I was a child or student or parent or community member, I've also got those ways to contact us also.
Absolutely. And one of the most important partnerships we have when we're reaching out to help others is through our dispatch, through the CISD police. Just this last week, I was in a meeting in the community, and they had it was at Lone Star Family Health, they had a suicide outcry by email, but the person wasn't responding back to other emails. They didn't have a phone number, and CISD dispatch helped me figure out how to navigate that and get a welfare check done within the community for that person who wasn't a CISD that I know of. I didn't need all that information, but I want to thank you, Captain, I'm sorry, Blakelock, to, you know, for really helping them know how to troubleshoot the problems and not just saying, well, that's all we can do, because they didn't let it go. They kept trying to help me navigate what to do in that situation within the community, so.
And I think when we see those extreme situations like that, where you have, you know, suicide outcries or different things like that, what you'll see is this great collaboration from counselors, or a call may go into dispatch, and it may be at night, and we have, these situations occur more often than we wish they would, but you'll be at night and have principals and assistant principals on the ground walking through neighborhoods or apartment complexes looking for kids, along with our police officers, along with counselors. You know, it's an all hands on deck to make that approach, and that's that's a far end of the extreme. And then the other end of the extreme, which is something that we want to encourage people to be more proactive with, is just this past week, Ms. Sapola and I, had an email from a family whose child has been dealing with anxiety and depression, and it's been going on for 4 months, but they hadn't reached out and to even let the campus know, but they did. And so it's one of those things, like, we're sad that it took 4 months, but we're happy that they finally reached out. So I think that's part of this point, is it's never too late, right? Just because maybe you look back and you're like, oh, I should have called 2 months ago to get some help. Well, call today. Like, today's the day then. Because now we're able to assist the family and make a child's life a little better and assist them with coping with what they need to deal with. So it's never too late to engage in the process. I think it's important to know as well.
And sorry, Matt, I was struggling whether to call you chief or captain, so just like, but anyhow.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you both very much. We appreciate it. A lot to be proud of in the counseling world there. And our next item is receive information about the Montgomery County Special Threat Response Plan. And as Ms. Sapola just mentioned, I think this has happened since our last safety meeting, but Captain Blakelock has been named our incoming Chief of Police for Conroe ISD. So we know the role that he has played, certainly very involved in the community and all the different, works with different jurisdictions of law enforcement, but also does a lot of community presentations as well. And we know that he will continue to serve us as the face of the Conroe ISD Police Department, as our chief, and make us all very proud. So we're going to turn it over to Captain Blakelock for this presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Knoll. Thank you, everybody, for giving me a little bit of time today to talk to you about our Montgomery County Special Threat Response Plan. agencies and organizations, especially emergency response agencies, develop crisis response plans. That's part of what we do every day. And they suit our entity, our environment. And we often talk about, mutual aid. What if this is bigger than us and we need assistance from another agency or multiple agencies? That doesn't always get written into a plan. And so what we find is in law enforcement looks at all the critical incidents that happen across our country over the years, and we say, hey, what went wrong? What went well? If we had to go through that, how can we do it and make sure that we didn't suffer those same problems? And in 2018, we decided that as a county, we needed to come together and come up with a plan, because there could be a crisis in our county that involves all of us. In May of 2018, State Representative Steve Toth, Conroe ISD school officials, Chief Harness and myself, Sheriff's Department, our Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and some others met and said, hey, we want to develop a plan that is good for our entire county. Something that prepares us, that we hope we never have to use this plan, but prepares us in case we have to, so that we can coordinate those responses and efforts to protect our citizens. So we met at Conroe ISD Police Department, and we formed an executive committee, and that had members of Conroe ISD Police Department, Conroe Police Department, Fire Marshal's Office, Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, DPS, and our state representative. That executive committee set out to develop a plan for a response for special threats. So the first thing we did was we defined special threat, and it started with active shooter or violent intruder, one of the scariest things that any entity or organization could face. We wanted this plan to provide instruction and guidance for law enforcement agencies, fire and EMS, all the emergency response agencies in the county, because if God forbid we had an active shooter at one of our facilities or at a hospital, there are going to be agencies coming from across this county to help. And we needed to coordinate those efforts so that everybody knows what the other entities will be doing to help solve this crisis. We want to focus on not just the response, but the training and ongoing plan maintenance too. So training for all the agencies. We don't want to meet a sheriff's deputy on the scene for the first time and have never trained with them. And so we've had ongoing, and Jim Hook is here today, and he has been instrumental in the training portion with me on another committee to bring active shooter training, crisis response training, evacuation trainings, reunification trainings to our county and our different entities. We know that an effective response, an early mitigation, detection, and deterrence of these special threats is going to require a whole community engagement as well. Law enforcement, fire, and EMS can't just come into an organization and say, we're taking over, this is what's going to happen, because this impacts everyone. And so this plan was built to include private businesses, and it was rolled out to all of the major hospitals in the county as an example, event venues like the Pavilion in the Woodlands, and our schools. Greatest thing about this plan, if you're familiar with Conroe ISD's emergency operations plan, we have an overarching plan for the entire district. And then individual campuses and facilities have their own plan, and they work together. They work in conjunction with one another. Nothing replaces something else. And so this program was designed to keep all relevant plans in place and to work together. So it complements, doesn't replace. And it sets about and it spends a good portion of time defining roles, defining language. And I put up here as an example, standard language. We need to define some things for continuity. So people that don't have the experience in some of these things are able to understand what it is that someone might be talking about. Different agencies then use the same terminologies. I'm happy to tell you what any one of those means, but I'm not going to go through them all. But we have to understand each other and use the same terminology to coordinate those responses. It establishes the incident command structure and a unified command. so that we have that multi-agency approach, and it's based on NIMS, the National Incident Management System. It establishes our priorities and expectations based on the event and based on the responder. Law enforcement, it's stop the killing, stop the dying. Fire and EMS, it's preserve life. It coordinates communication among agencies responding. One of the biggest hurdles in a crisis event is effective, good communication to your community, to people within your organization, to other responding agencies, and that's a huge part of this plan. It provides information systems for real-time updates. It assists in perimeter setup in multiple staging areas. When you have a large-scale event, you're going to have a lot of different agencies bringing a lot of different resources, and we have to have places to put them. We have to know how to keep out the people from that scene that might complicate it or might put them in harm's way. And it sets about saying, if I come from any agency and I step into this, we have a plan already in place to help prepare that. That makes our response much more effective. It engages public information personnel from all agencies so that they can provide real-time, accurate sharing of information, because that's one of the most important things we've got to do at that time. And it includes public information officers from every school district in the county. They're a part of that, from the different hospitals and venues, as well as the law enforcement, fire, and EMS agencies. We address the response from civilians. We teach civilian response to active shooter events. Run, hide, fight. Everybody's probably familiar with that. It teaches law enforcement what's going to be expected from them when they get there. What are their priorities? Fire and EMS, same thing. And then, of course, the venue, the school, the campus facility, wherever this event's taking place, they need to know what it is that we're going to be doing, and we need to know what it is that they've got to be doing. And so it sets that in place so that we can share that information up front. It also addresses reunification, which is one of the most difficult things that we're going to have to do at the end of this event, and takes very good communications there as well. And then it addresses training, exercises of the plan, and post-incident review. We do a lot of interagency training in active shooter response that includes fire and EMS. We do tabletop drills. As a matter of fact, the Special Threat Response Group put on a tabletop at College Park High School a few years ago, and have continued to put those on at any of the entities and organizations so we can have that conversation about what a response might look like. This is the first plan of its kind in the state that I'm aware of, and it includes every single law enforcement, fire, and EMS agency in the county. That's 26, I believe, agencies are all part of this plan. And it has participation from all the Montgomery County schools within our district, within the county, major hospitals, and some large event venues. So we're very proud of that. It's an ongoing, like we said, we have ongoing maintenance, but it makes Montgomery County, makes our school district a much safer place at the end of the day. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Maybe just a couple of points. Matt, do the radios that you all have, can you communicate with all the other entities? Are you on a separate radio system?
So on a daily basis, we operate on different radio channels. It's all part of the Montgomery County radio system, and we have interoperability so that through the Sheriff's Department, we're able to connect all radios that respond to one single radio channel or a multitude of channels depending on our needs.
That's a move made in the last few years, right?
That is a move. Just prior to 2018, it was unheard of. Fire couldn't communicate with EMS sometimes. Law enforcement couldn't communicate with one another.
And then along those lines, one of the things that we now build in, especially to our big schools, which happened midway through the construction of Grand Oaks, was we build in repeaters in our buildings for those radio systems. So if we were ever in a situation where we had to have a lot of these folks in our buildings, we have those repeaters that would help to make sure their communications work in the buildings. And then one of the very first things we did after that meeting in 2018 was make sure that all of our local law enforcement had the maps to our building.
We got
all of our
the-
buildings and their systems.
All of our facilities, we got the current floor plans, we put them on a disc, and we gave them to every single agency to make sure that their troops would have them.
Yeah, so as they approach the building, they know where they would be going, and, you know, our doors are numbered on the outside, so they know if they're going to what number, because while we know all of our elementary schools, you know, they change a little bit, or they could be flipped, or whatever, and so now the guys coming up would know that difference. And we just did the reach out through that first meeting, through conversation, was like, let's just invite, especially law enforcement, into the building. Like, if you're you know, a sheriff's deputy or a constable that just happens to patrol a neighborhood, like, come in and visit and walk the building one day and just be a local hero. The kids will think that's the coolest thing ever, but like, get a feel for the building, right? And we've seen a lot of that. I know we have some state troopers that do that. I know I've gone to a couple of campuses where there's some state troopers that's just part of what they do. Like, once a week, they come in and they walk the building, talk to kids, but because that's in their area.
Absolutely, and along with that, we've also invited and have had many agencies come in to have their own training on our campuses so that they get to know our facilities, so.
You talk about the bus radios, the ability of our transportation department, they're on the county system now, and you have access to those if need be in an emergency situation, so they can be communicated with your PD.
Absolutely, just in the last few years, we were given by the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, the radio system, the ability to put all of our buses on this radio system and designate channels just for them. And throughout the radio system process, at some point, we could have any law enforcement agency communicate directly with a bus if we needed to. Our police officers can and our dispatch can contact our buses at any given time with the radios. It's been phenomenal for our district.
Which is significant, because our old system, you know, as big as we are, 348 square miles, there would be places that were dead, and we couldn't communicate with our buses at all, which is definitely a safety hazard. But this is, you know, the radios for the police department or the radios for the buses, these are the kind of purchases that our board has invested in over the years, that they're not glamorous. They're not, you know, they're not one of those things that are gonna make big headlines, and even on paper, you could look at it and think, my gosh, that's a lot of money to spend on a radio. You know, they could get a cheaper walkie-talkie, but it's making sure we have the right pieces that we can integrate is significant. And so I think, you know, we have Ms. Wagaman here on our board, but you know, these are the type of things that really, I think we have to be thankful. We have a board that looks ahead, it pays attention to safety, because you can't do all these things after the fact. Right? And that's where you see a lot of that, right? Everybody does a lot of things after a bad situation. You have to be proactive, and we're fortunate to have a board that thinks that way.
We were one of the first agencies in the county to transition to the new upgraded radios that we needed in order to continue that interoperability. So very proud of that.
Questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, Captain. Appreciate it. Okay, well, I'd be happy to entertain any other questions or comments just in general here before we wrap up our meeting today.
Next one will be June or July. Has to be
The
during
next
the
meeting
summer.
will be, well, yes, it is required to be during the summer. We don't have a date yet, so it'll be June or July. We will communicate that with you upcoming, but we appreciate you all making your way back here. It is good to see you in person. And we're thankful that you're here. We're also thankful that we can get out at a fairly good time. We had a lot of great information in here today in 40 minutes, so that was wonderful. Thank you to our presenters. We appreciate that.
If they have anything that they would like if you're with that, I can't even speak now. I had it in my head and then I'm tripping all over everything. If there's anything for future meetings that you feel that we do need to address in regard to, you know, the function of this committee, please let myself or someone know. They can funnel it back to me. We're always looking for topics and things to address in regard to school safety. And everything is on the table, of course. Anything in regard to school safety, we'll take a look at, and we'll bring it before the committee to make further decisions. So,
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing further, we will adjourn at 4:40. Thank you so much.